2 weeks into the season just yet, but a lot of baseball's already been played, and the Yankees have had their ups and downs so far. So we're going to start this week off by saying two things you're excited about, two things you think they can do a little bit better.
I think the job that some of our young kids have done, whether it's a Ronald Torreyes filling in a couple days, a Johnny Barbado, his first time in the big leagues, he's done a good job the first couple of weeks. And I've been pleased with our bullpen. And there's some certain guys that have really swung the bat well. Brian McCann has got off to a great start. Carlos Beltran has got off to a great start. Starlin Castro and Didi has gotten off to a good start. So those are good things.
You mentioned Torreyes. He's the 25th man essentially on the roster, but he's gotten off to a good start in the limited opportunities that he's had. Did you expect him to step in like that and contribute offensively?
Well, we loved what we saw in spring training. It seemed like he always got the barrel of the bat to the ball. And he really understands who he is. He doesn't try to do too much at the plate. He just tries to hit line drives all over the field, and sometimes they carry over the outfielder's head. But he has done a really good job filling in at third and a day at short. So really happy with what he's done.
You had mentioned last week that, you know, these bench players, part of the tough job that you have is making sure they remain active, getting them at bats so they continue to see pitches. How difficult a job is it for these guys who aren't getting everyday playing time to be ready and be effective when they do get in there?
I think the most difficult part is when you have a lot of off days like we have in the first couple of weeks, because your guys don't necessarily need as many days off, and that's the tough part. But once we get into the swing of the schedule, it's easier to get them in more. But it's important that they get a chance to play because you want them sharp when they get in there and it's not like a surprise.
At what point in time this spring did you look at Johnny Barbado and say, this is a guy that can help us now?
After about 3 or 4 outings, we looked at him and said, you know what? This kid's got a pretty good curveball, he's got a good slider, and he has command of his fastball. And he seems to have a pretty good idea what he's doing out there. And we just kept watching and watching and watching, and we were pleased with what we saw, and he became part of our bullpen.
It's pretty interesting because opposing teams and opposing broadcasters, when he comes in afterwards, say, who is this kid?
Yeah.
He's pretty exciting to watch. The impact that he's had so far, has he exceeded expectations early on?
Yeah, I mean, you don't really ever know how a kid's going to react once the bright lights turn on. And I think he's handled it well. He hit the first batter. He got that out of the way, and then he's been really good since then. So, I mean, there was probably some nervousness. But he's a kid from Florida, from Miami. We got to go to Miami, and he got to check in at home and tell his family that he made the big league team. And then it's been good so far, so we're really pleased.
He had said it had been such a whirlwind, really, since that trip, the 48 hours leading to opening day, and so on and so forth. But it certainly doesn't seem as though it has affected him on the mound. One thing that has been happening the first time through the rotation, we are now the second time through the rotation, starters have not been going particularly deep in games. How much do you attribute that to some of the cold temperatures you had early on, and just starting pitchers early in the season maybe aren't quite as stretched out as they normally would be?
Well, I think you look at that, both of those things, and say, you know, that's part of it. Sometimes they don't have a great feel for the ball when it's cold, and they're not quite as built up as they will be after this month. But you do need distance out of them, because if you don't, you really, then we got that cycle of going through everyone and calling people up and sending people down, so we always have a fresh arm. You worry about the guys at the back end and having to use them too much. So it becomes a concern if it happens for a long period of time, but I expect they'll start to stretch out more, you know, the third and fourth time through.